ladies, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Aisha. I'm a certified trauma-informed coach, and I am on a mission to help 1 million women become their most confident and successful selves with the use of law of assumption manifestation. If you are not yet subscribed, go ahead and hit the button and tap that bell icon so you never miss out on powerful tips, inspiring stories, and essential guidance so that you too can manifest the life of your dreams. Let's get into today's video. I'm really excited to share this, so excited in fact that I rushed through, scarfed down my pancakes because this message just could not wait. So if I'm a little bit burpy, I ate those pancakes so fast because this message is so important. It is so powerful, and honestly, when I started to learn this concept and see how it's played out in my subconscious and conscious beliefs, everything made way more sense to me. Now, I know a lot of you watching, you've been manifesting for some time and you're feeling frustrated and you're just looking for the answer and you're like, why isn't it here yet? Why isn't it manifesting? I've been doing all the things, I've been doing the techniques. Maybe you've even been journaling or going to therapy or using different types of trauma-informed healing to move through certain energies. I know that that's where I've been for the past several years, and yet there are still these little blockages in my self-concept, in my beliefs about the world that are preventing me from getting to the next step. We all go through layers of evolution. So, your first ever conscious manifestations are on one layer, and then you increase your awareness and move to the next layer, or level rather, and then you go to the third level and the fourth, and we're constantly evolving. That's the beautiful thing about being a human being and living in this world and living this life. We are constantly being exposed to new possibilities that we didn't recognize before, and we're able to level our self-concept up to believe that we can welcome in those possibilities. Excuse me. But one sneaky little thing that happens is something that actually stems from psychology, and generally speaking in psychology, this term is used for people who have been abused or victims of abuse. Excuse me. I like to call them survivors of abuse. And this is something that the subconscious does to protect you. So if you've ever known someone who's in an abusive relationship, whether that is a parent-child dynamic or excuse me, abusive siblings, or if it is a specific person, romantic partnership that is abusive, or abusive friendships, like abuse comes in all relationship dynamics, unfortunately. But if you've ever known someone to be in that dynamic, or if you yourself have been in that dynamic, you know that oftentimes these abuse victims get asked, why don't you just leave? And as someone who's been through an abusive dynamic myself, that is the most painful question to be asked, because really it's not that simple. It's not as simple as just, oh, leaving. I mean, even if you have help and resources available to you, it's not that simple because your psychology is trapped. You are stuck in this belief that there's some risk to leaving, and whatever the risk to leaving is, that risk is in fact greater than staying in the abuse. And sometimes the risk is just the unknown. Sometimes the reason you don't have what you desire is because the fear of the unknown is greater than the strength of that desire currently is. And so it feels safer to stay where you are. Why? Because if you've been in an abusive dynamic, the abuser's pattern of behavior is usually quite predictable. You can usually know when they're going to get mad, what they're going to get mad about, the level of the anger they're going to express, the level of the consequences for taking certain actions are very predictable. And the reason for this is actually just because your assumptions have created that dynamic. If you assume your parents will ground you for failing a test, that is a pattern of assumption. So then every time you fail a test in school, you assume, oh, my parents are going to ground me. Like this is something that unfortunately a lot of people in the excuse me, I'm so sorry. I really should not have rushed through my breakfast. Okay. This is something that unfortunately a lot of people in the law of assumption community like to deny. They like to pretend that you're only manifesting the good things and that you're not also manifesting the bad things. Now, this is not, I want to be very clear, I'm going to make really direct eye contact when I say this. This is not about blame. If you have been or are currently experiencing abuse, it is not your fault. Okay? It is not your fault. You did not consciously choose to assume ill about those people who are harming you. With a caveat though, if you do not assume better of them, and if you do not assume better out there for you, nothing is going to change. If you cannot see that person treating you better, or if you cannot see a version of reality where you are out of that person's life, you are not going to get better, and your circumstances are not going to get better. And I speak from a very personal experience dealing with someone who was toxic and harmful to my mental health and my physical health and my spiritual health. Multiple people in my life, in fact. You did not consciously wake up and decide to be abused. You did not consciously decide that your parents are mean and nasty to you. You did not consciously decide that people treat you like garbage. You did not choose those thoughts from a state of awareness. So it is really important that you do not blame yourself for that. This is not about blame. It's not about fault, okay? Now that we've cleared that up, I admit in my past, it was hard for me to see certain people as good for me. When my parents would become toxic in their behavior, it was usually because I had predicted that toxic response. So I knew when I was going to get in trouble, and therefore I got in trouble. I assumed I was going to get in trouble, either going to get yelled at, or they were going to make me cry, they were going to hurt my feelings, they were going to put me in a corner, they were going to do any number of punishments that my parents chose to apply to me. Okay, and I'm also saying this from a place like, I get it. They could only do the best that they could do. And as a child, I was not aware. And this is not about blame them. It's not about blaming them or blaming myself. So we're going to take blame off the table and fault off the table. This is about ownership of this concept. This is about understanding if you see your parent as emotionally reactive, if you see your parent as someone who is going to yell at you whenever they get triggered or mad and you do something wrong and that's their response, you can only create more of that same reality. And this goes too for specific person relationships. If you believe that your specific person is going to behave in a toxic way, either, degrade you by saying really cruel and hurtful words, or they're going to use your insecurities against you, or they're going to, in the worst cases, put hands on you, that's coming from your belief about what they're capable of and about what you believe you deserve on some level. And I really hate to say this. I really hate to put this out there in the world, but this is my first person experience that I'm speaking on. A part of you believes that you deserve to be treated poorly, and therefore you're treated poorly. And this can go to great extremes in reality. You can believe that people are just kind of rude to you, or people ignore you, or they just don't care about you, and that's like on the very light end of the spectrum. Or you can believe that you deserve to be physically beaten, physically or, essayed in that way, okay? Like, there are some really toxic beliefs that exist in reality. And all it takes for you to manifest something bad happening to you is that you believe it's possible that it can happen to you. If you believe it's possible to get into a car accident, that's something you can manifest, consciously or unconsciously. If you believe it's possible for people to be cruel to you and abuse you, that's just something you're going to manifest consciously or unconsciously. And, excuse me, the goal here is to identify what beliefs are bringing you to that place. What beliefs are trapping you in that reality? And, going back to what I said in the beginning of this video, what happens is something called secondary gain. And secondary gain is that feeling of, I'm safer here in this predictable chaos. There's a quote going around, it's been going around probably since 2020, and it is that your mind will choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. And what this means is your nervous system and your subconscious brain and your hard wiring as a human being will choose a familiar hell. It will choose the pattern of toxicity that it knows, because it already knows how to handle it. It already knows how to bear the burden of that. It knows how to recover from a fight. It knows how to heal certain emotional wounds, or at the very least coddle them until you feel some sense of normalcy again. It doesn't, however, know what life will be like outside of that toxic dynamic. And this is why you stay in toxic relationships. It's not because you don't love yourself. It's not. You can very much love yourself and also believe that you deserve to be treated like garbage. Ask me how I know. There were many years in my life where I knew I loved myself, because there was a part of me that was so depressed and anxious and miserable, and I would ask, like, why is this happening to me? But by asking that question, why is this happening to me, you're not in an empowered state. In fact, asking why is this happening to me creates an opportunity for your subconscious mind to answer. It's happening because I feel like I deserve to be treated poorly. It's happening because nobody loves me. It's happening because I just deserve this, or I don't deserve better than this. The subconscious mind will fill in the gaps, and it will bring life to that secondary gain. And this is not only prevalent in cases of abuse, okay, that's the extreme scenario, but this is also, let's say you really want a promotion at work because you could really use the money, and the money is just one, like the promotion is just one path to get that money. So yes, you desire the money, you strongly desire the money, but there's a part of you that's like, oh, but the responsibility. I don't want to have to take care of other people. I don't want to have to solve other people's problems. I don't want to be the one that gets blamed for everything. So that secondary gain of not getting the promotion is that you don't have to handle the responsibility. This can also look like if you're living in your parents' house and your parents are treating you poorly, or they're just not that supportive of you. And they have certain rules. If you live in your parents' house, you have to, go to college and study this. I know a lot of Asian immigrants especially live that reality where their parents say, you can stay in my house, but you have to go to college and you have to study one of these things. But then let's say your heart is dreaming of being a musician, and that's just not on the table for them. They're like, no, you're gonna be a doctor, or you're gonna be a lawyer, or you're gonna be an engineer, and that's it. And I know those are stereotypes, but I've met enough people, and I have people like that in my family, that I know that that's just their reality. That is the truth for them. So the secondary gain of staying with your parents, even though you're sacrificing your true desire of pursuing music, is that you don't have to pay rent for yourself. Your parents are funding your college, and you're in a familiar environment where if you fail, they have your back. Whereas if you go out against them, if you move out, that means they're no longer funding your college. So if you want to study music or be a musician, you got to figure that out on your own. You have to figure out how to pay for rent on your own. You got to figure out how to live life on your own. And that can be really scary if you've never done anything like that. And it can be really frightening or anxiety producing if you were not given the tools to support yourself as you grew up. And so again, it's that idea that just because you really want something and there's a strong desire doesn't mean that your brain isn't also contradicting that desire. There is always a secondary gain, and there's always something that feels safer in being here and now than being in the new desired reality, or you wouldn't be here now. You would rush right into that desired reality. So whether you can apply this to very extreme, painful, abusive situations, or whether you can just apply it to something, like I said, like a promotion or, even losing weight. Like if you have a fear of being seen, which was my struggle. 2020, I started, dabbling in business. I was putting myself out there in the world, and then I would quit and delete my videos. And then 2021 came around and I started my business and I'm putting myself out there, and I would have so much like imposter syndrome, and I'm like, oh my gosh, more people are seeing me, more people are seeing me, more people are looking at me. And the fear of being seen really is like fear of being criticized, fear of being judged, fear of being ostracized, fear of being othered, just fear of judgment in general. Like it kept me from putting myself out there more. And so I would go through this cycle of, I would create success, and then I would get really nervous and tight, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, delete it all. And I would get like that feeling of embarrassment. And what that was is just me stretching. So the gain of having success in business versus the pain of being seen meant that I was not giving myself permission to grow in my business. And part of that was tied to my appearance. It was tied to my physical well-being, because when I started business, I actually taught a lot more about health and fitness. I did like finance and fitness, and like family goals. And I felt like a fraud because I was like, how can I teach people about fitness if I'm still overweight? So that tied into my fear of being seen. And the thing about that is if I didn't lose the weight, I didn't have to face my fear of being seen. Does that make sense? If I stayed overweight and unhealthy, I just wouldn't put myself out there. If I stayed that version of myself that felt insecure about her body and I just wasn't changing anything about that, then I didn't have to face putting my body out there as it was, as an overweight woman, and face being judged. So what was keeping me safe is the belief that if I stay heavy, I don't have to expose myself, because I know that if I stay heavy and unhappy with my body, I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm just not. I'm going to put myself out there a little bit, and then I'm going to panic and I'm going to delete the videos. And this happened, oh my gosh, so many times. Like I've produced countless hours of content that I put online and deleted because of like internalized shame around that. So to overcome my fear of being seen, in part, I changed my relationship with myself, and I did start to lose weight. And as I started to lose weight, I felt more confident because I actually was showing people, hey, I'm losing weight, and I told you I'm gonna lose weight. I told you this is what I'm manifesting. So I had the proof that allowed me to overcome that fear of being seen. But again, that secondary gain was to stay overweight and unhealthy and unsatisfied and not be seen, not put myself out there. So we are at war with ourselves when it comes to secondary gain. Part of ourself really does want that manifestation, really strongly, truly desires it. And the other part of ourself is like, yeah, that's nice, but this feels safer. This feels less risky. This feels a little bit more comfortable. This is a little bit more predictable. So I am challenging you today to apply the concept of secondary gain to your manifestations. Whatever your most challenging manifestation is, I want you to really like go over your beliefs with a fine-tooth comb and notice where it's feeling safer to not have what you desire, and then revise that belief. I really did enjoy filming this video, and I hope to see you all in the January masterclass that I am hosting. It is the Goal Getters Masterclass. I've actually hosted this every year for New Year's except for last year. So I'm super stoked to bring it back. I am just really thrilled to add more to it and bring more of Law of Assumption into it and really make it magical. It is going to be a 3-day masterclass experience, which means day 1 is free for everybody on my Confidence Club mailing list. If you are not on the mailing list, you can sign up. I will pin the comment down below to sign up on whoisshecoaching.com. And day 2 is going to be $23, and then day 2 and 3 is going to be $47. For now, that's going to be my standard pricing for my 3-day masterclass structure. So it is a steal of a deal. We're going to go into all sorts of habits and psychology and talk about environment and influence in day 1, and then day 2 I will be getting deeper into like the blocks that really keep us stuck. Secondary gain is one type of block that can keep you from your manifestation that you may not even be aware of. So day 2 is all about unconscious blocks, and then day 3 will be hot seat coaching. So if you want a chance to have one-to-one coaching with me, that will be the day, January 3rd, where we will sit down. You can tell me your specific circumstances, your specific manifestations, and I will work through it with you. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for holding out. I know this has been a long video. I've been trying to keep my videos shorter. I know attention spans are short, but today was a very, very important video with a very profound message that needed to be spread. So much so that I rushed through my pancakes to deliver this message. So thank you, bless you all for being here, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.